What developer doesn't want absolute control over their coding editor? Perhaps you prefer a dark background and neon blue text for your code. One way to indulge your inner artist is by configuring the Visual Studio fonts and color options to your own custom palette. In this video, I'm working with this fonts and color project. The first thing I want to show you is some basic font sizing. I'm going to double click on book.cs. I've configured this font to make it readable for this movie. I'll show you how to do that in the tools options in a second. But anytime you want to size a code window, you can merely hold down your control key and move your mouse wheel. When you move it one direction, the font gets smaller, and when you move it the other direction, the font gets larger. Now this is per code window. So if I switch to another code window like this program.cs and make the text smaller, and then switch back to the book window, you'll see that they don't match. There's a free tool you can add to Visual Studio to synchronize the mouse wheel so that when you scroll it in one window, it matches in all the other windows. Let me show you that. It's in Tools, Extensions and Updates. Then we're going to go to the Online Gallery and search for the word Trout. Yes, that's what I thought too. Why was it called Trout Zoom? But that's the name. I will install this extension. I'll restart Visual Studio. And now when I zoom this window smaller and switch to my program file, you see that they match. Next, I'm going to talk about how you can change the font face. To do that, you go to Tools, Options, open the Environment node, and then select Fonts and Colors. I'm currently working with the text editor settings. As you can see, there are a number of different areas we can configure in Visual Studio. We'll start with the text editor. And the default font is Consolis. This is a nice font, but if you want to switch to a different monospace font, you can. This lists all of the installed fonts on my computer. Since developers tend to prefer monospace fonts, Microsoft highlights all the monospace fonts in bold in this list. I happen to like Consolis, so I'm going to leave it at the default. Next, I want to show you what you can change as far as the font colors. These are the different items that are displayed in my code window. By clicking on one of the items in the display item list, I can see what it looks like in the editor without having to go back to the editor. This is what the text looks like when I select it with my mouse. I'll change this to an olive color and see what happens when I go back to Visual Studio. I get an olive color background. Nice. Let me show you changing the color of your comments. I'm going to scroll down to the C section and look for comment. There it is. It says that the default value for a comment is a dark green color. What I'd like to do is change the item background. I'll click on this drop down and look through my color choices. I'm not seeing any colors that appeal to me in this list. So what I will do is click on the custom button. And here I can work with the entire color palette. I'm thinking I want a light yellow color. So I'll click here in this yellow band. And then I'll slide my mouse up and down in this area until I get the light color I'm interested in. And then I'll click OK. And then I'll click on OK a second time. And as you can see, my comments now are in the light yellow color with the green text. Next, I want to talk about brace matching. Do you see this curly brace? When I move my mouse to a curly brace, it accentuates that brace and the matching brace with a light gray background. I don't know about you, but it's a little too light for my taste. So what I'd like to do is make this a little more obvious. I'll go back to Tools, Options, find my brace matching. There's the one with the gray background. And I'm thinking that I want an orange color. I think that's much better. I can obviously see my matching braces in a much clearer fashion. Let me switch over to this book.cs file. Another technique I like to use is differentiating the difference between a class or a reference type and a struct or a value type. Let me show you how you can differentiate those in your code. Go to Tools, Options, back to the same place as before, the text editor. I'll go down to the bottom of the list and find something called the user types. Again, I'm going to set the background. This time I'm going to use a light blue color and a white font. And for the value types, I'll use a pinkish color. You see the difference? My structs are now highlighted in a pink color, and my classes are highlighted in blue color. And this also applies to where you use them. You can see here where I'm instantiating the book and instantiating the file information. They're in the matching colors. There are a ton of other settings in this options, more than I can show you in this video. I like to change my highlight line, the selected line, look for highlight. I also like to change the font. Sometimes when I'm teaching, I like to make the IntelliSense windows bigger. To do that, you can go to this section and look at statement completion. And I'm going to bump this font size up to 16. And I'll also do the same thing with the editor tooltip. I'll bump that up to 16 too. And then I'll click OK. And now you'll see when I say var, notice that this window now is much larger. The font size is much larger in here. Same thing with I hover my mouse over an item and the tooltip that pops up, that is now in a larger font. Now, of course, you're going to make a mistake occasionally, so there's a way to reset the settings. We'll go back to using the defaults for the editor tooltip, for the statement completion, and I'll also reset it for my text editor. There's a growing movement in developer editors to use a dark background in the editor. If you have installed the Change Color Theme extension, then you can easily change to a dark background. Here on this Change Color Theme, I'm going to pick Light with Dark Editor. So now I got a dark background and neon colored text. I'll switch that back before it closes movie. Switch back to the blue theme. See the first chapter for details how to install this extension, the theme editor. You can spend an hour exploring all the font settings in this dialog. Before long, you will have your own customized code editor that will be the envy of your peers.